Many of us feel the weight in the collective. We are asking essential questions of survival, such as, how will I pay for housing? How am I going to pay for groceries? What about the bills? And how am I going to prevent myself from getting sick this fall? When we shift our attention into how we feel and what we are observing, we know that something big is coming in. And I feel that we are in a climate of systemic change and perhaps crisis. Collapse is about shifting the hierarchy of control. And as truth seekers and as light workers, we have the ability to anchor in light and to make our energetic voices heard and to be part of what is being created in the collective. We are not here to just simply survive. We are here to thrive and to be in abundance. And if you are ready to rally for a more abundant future, then I encourage you to watch this video with an open heart and to let your intuition guide you on how to prepare. Some mysteries never add up. The files don't match the facts. The evidence raises more questions than answers. And that's where I come in. I'm Kamala Hurley, evidential medium and intuitive investigator, and your guide into the stories that no one can explain. On Decoded, I uncover the cases that keep you up at night. My name is Kamala Hurley, and I am a forensic medium, and I do evidential mediumship. With my evidential mediumship, I'm always interested in looking at the energetic root of the issue, whether I'm working with a client or I'm working with a collective. So while I am bringing up these ideas, please understand they're questions. They're not statements of facts. So what I ask for you to do right now is to open up your intuition, for you to start to receive downloads that you could share in the comments, for you to bounce ideas off other truth seekers and light workers that are here to help bring light to the collective. As we step into trusting ourselves, moving into radical authenticity, and having the courage to share our opinions, even in seasons of polarized conversations, I think what's important is that we are paving a way to making the world a better place. So with that being said, everything that I bring through, I write down in my journals, so everything is brought through as I channel. And if you see me look down, it's because I am actually reading stuff to you that is out of my notebook. So with that, get your intuition open, get ready to share your ideas in the comments, and let's have a conversation about potential timelines that are opening up. Now, the very first thing that came through is that we are in a climate of historic and systemic change and crisis. Many of us feel it. It is not being, let's say, accurately covered by traditional media, and that is to try, it is an attempt to offset the anxiety that many of us are having. I also will share with you that the second image that started to come through was the image of a shaman, and that there are shamanic leaders that are in deep prayer in order to help the survival of humanity, as well as the earth. I also see that the shamanic leaders of the world are calibrating the frequency of earth to a resonance that also impacts the collective consciousness. And what I was shown is that the shamanic leaders are intuitive leaders of the world and of many different faiths, are here to help truth seekers and light workers understand the signals in the energetic fields before there is complete breakdown. So I'm going to share with you what those three signals are to watch and look for. And the very first signal that was brought forth is for people to pay attention to health in your community. If you start noticing high levels of illness, people that are dizzy, people that are dealing with complete exhaustion, fatigue, autoimmune conditions, and more instances of cancer, that this could be part of a psychological stress and not just pathogens. Understand that as I see it as a forensic medium and someone that does medical mediumship, there are energetic roots to a lot of the health issues that we work through. And in this case, I see that the stress is so high in the collective with all these issues of how will we survive and where exactly are we headed, that a lot of people are starting to absorb it into their nervous system. And so many people are overlooking the way that high frequency individuals help to offset the tension. Very specifically, what I see is that empaths and highly sensitive people, intuitives, are more prone to get sick through fall. So it's really important for you to build up your immune system. I was also shown a term I've never really heard or seen before, and I do go online to check the things that I bring forth here. So understand I'm here for conversation, but what I was shown is that there is mass psychogenic illness, and we were able to understand that through what happened in 2020. Back in 2020, when there were massive shutdowns because of a virus that was spreading globally, I was shown that it wasn't just the pathogen of the virus that made people sick. It wasn't just the biologics of it, but that people were amplified and prone to getting sick who had higher levels of fear around it. So what I was shown is that fear and stress can actually worsen our physical sensations in the body. It's sort of like if you're experiencing fatigue, if you're experiencing pain, if you have tightness in your chest, if you're prone to panic attacks, these symptoms will be amplified if you're in a position of fear, if you feel like you're powerless with everything that you're moving through. And what I also see is that can lead to long-term immune dysregulation. So what is so important for you to look out for is the signal of more and more people around you getting sick, whatever the source of that sickness is. It is an indication for you to rest, restore, eat healthy, nutritious foods, and maintain mindful movement and healthy sleep patterns, and definitely healthy stress coping techniques to keep your vibration high. Now, the second signal that we need to look out for are around resources. So I see that there is a type of social upheaval that this collective is prime to experience. That might show up as food disruptions, but if you understand that the Great Famine of the 14th century was necessary to set the stage for the Black Death that occurred shortly after it, then we can start to understand how there can be moments where resources are tight, and that we need to find ways to make sure our health stays strong while resources feel limited. And I think that this is showing up not as famine, so good news. I don't foresee a famine happening in the world, but what I do see is people are having a really hard time paying for groceries, and that can feel like a type of famine. So what I want you to do is understand that there are ways to stretch your bottom dollar. And for example, I was at the grocery store this week and I witnessed, people surrounding the racks of food that were considered past its prime or seconds. There were more people shopping the discounted food racks than there were people shopping in the actual grocery store. There are strategic ways that you can take less than perfect food and make really healthy, nutritious meals that extend for several days. So now is the time for us to consider making more home-cooked foods, because that will help boost our immune system, but that will also help to lengthen and stretch our dollar. So maybe going and checking out content that is connected to homestead cooking and things like that could be a really valuable resource for you while dealing with really tight budgets. I also see that weather patterns are also absorbing the collective stress, and that the intensification of gray weather systems are part of what many people around the world will experience this fall. If you look at some of the information out there about gray weather and what it does to us psychologically and what it does to our immune system, there's a lot of data out there that living in a gray climate like London or Seattle, Washington, places where you don't get a lot of natural sunlight, can impact your body. So what I was shown to share to people is that making sure you spend 15 minutes to, an hour outside every day will help to will help you offset the exposure to gray weather. So whether you are experiencing rain, gray weather, snow, beautiful sunshine, you need to spend more time outside. Staying inside, cooped up in your home, leads to weakened immune systems. And understand that these climate disruptions that can lead to crop failures, it can lead to livestock health issues, it could even lead to food distribution issues. That can lead to social panic. And so having your kitchen prepared, not by hoarding, but just with essentials that can get you through a 72-hour time period, would be really helpful. Because climate disruptions or the sensation of there being a lack of resources does spark social unrest. We could also look, for example, at the French Revolution that occurred back in the 18th century, because at that time, the French Revolution, there was a famine that was occurring. And as many people think, Marie Antoinette said, let them eat cake. Regardless, the famine was the precursor to the revolution in France. And if there is either a famine in terms of feeling like we just simply can't afford groceries, or if there is actually crop failure, I do think that these tightening of resources we're all feeling in our lives. In the past, when there were famine, plagues, climate shifts, there were kings, landlords, and empires that consolidated power and made shifts in the structure of society for their benefit. Today, it is big corporation as well as private financial groups that will seize the assets that people are not able to provide for and take control over all of these resources. And how that impacts us once private equity steps in and purchases assets like small businesses, housing, even hospitals, farmland, is that what used to be community owned and focused on community values suddenly belongs to faceless investors that might not ever even come to these places. What I am talking about, though, is that there are fingerprints of exploitation. And when there is an absence of public trust, then corporations find an opportunity to fill the vacuum. When there's fear in your body, it's easier to control people, and it makes people less likely to resist, which is why we need to focus on building strong immune systems. We also have to understand that systemic breakdown will also lead to resource consolidation, which is by just a very few people. And that's something that we've witnessed historically, time and time again. So it's sort of like during the Great Depression, which was started by the Great Dust Bowl, and then as there was this type of famine that occurred, then the Great Depression happened, and it led to the robber barons and moguls and monopolies. Today, what we need to be concerned about is technology dependence. We need to worry about corporate monopolies, and financial buyouts. So those are things for us to consider and to be aware of. Like, when these things happen, obviously we want to make sure that we express ourselves to the political leaders in our communities, because there will be a lot of ways in which we can change things that are unfolding. We can do it by creating what are known as mutual accountability groups in your communities. I think that's really important. Getting tethered into your local community offline is important. I think the more that we have awareness about what's unfolding in the collective and piecing together information from many different independent journalists is part of ways that we can make informed decisions. I also believe that by reclaiming daily practices that are focused on health, wellness, as well as spiritual or energetic aspects will be vital. Understand that the type of energetic prep that I'm advocating for, definitely in the month of September and moving forward, is for you to focus daily on grounding to help you understand how to actually nourish your soul with joy, and how to focus on conscious consumption. That's absolutely really important, as well as building that strong immune system and making sure that you're physically prepared, like in the kitchen with food. This makes you less vulnerable to exploitation. So I believe that there is actually evidence of the breakdown of a lot of the systems of society by the increase in thefts that are happening in communities across North America. America and Canada. It is a different type of spider web that is using the decay as opportunity. I also believe that there will be greater indifference from political leaders in America to pledge loyalty or even assistance to certain countries in Europe. That was something that specifically came out. I brought through again that there are going to be a lot of illness for fall, and that there will be these food issues that are occurring. But I think that it's not specifically a famine. I think it has to do with transportation issues, and that maybe the famine is really part of this economic crisis with food moving slowly around the world and making prices so high. There's many different factors. I'm not an economist. I'll let you decide what that means by you dropping into my comments. I also see that there is going to be an intense gray winter, and I feel that that gray winter or that gray fall and winter is going to just be spread across Europe. That's going to lead to a lot of psychological issues, a lot of illness issues, maybe even a food issue as well. So the way to counteract that is to make sure that you spend time outside. My advice is to prepare. That's what came through. I also see that there will be many waves of government-assisted cuts that are happening in America, and that there will be a lot of delay for people who rely on government assistance. Some of this is actually in order to prevent government closure from happening. And it's really interesting because I brought through that America is working to prepare to avoid a real crisis. And it's interesting because when I just, checked online, I see that our politicians are actually trying to avoid a partial government shutdown by September 30th. So I find that's very interesting, and I will remind you that back in May of 2025, specifically May 17th, 2025, is when America's credit score was downgraded by the Moody Institute, which is the first time since the early 1900s that actually happened. Now, there's a lot of emotional weight with these predictions that I'm bringing through for you, but when you realize that you're not alone in this and that you have a duty to self-care and to eating well and making sure that you provide as much stability in your life as possible, that is helping you to reframe empowerment and not feeling like you're a victim. So compassionately, I want you to understand that governments are wobbly, economies are shaky, but your soul's stability doesn't have to depend on those political leaders and the decisions that they're making. Be smart with how you live your life day to day. Ground yourself in your truth, focus on daily care, and make sure that you're making connection to community, family, friends, and that it's done offline. Fear shrinks us, but clarity expands us. And I think that's something that we need to understand, because constant stress weakens our immune system. And in chronic stress, it links to inflammatory diseases and higher risk of cancer progression. I know I'm repeating myself a little bit. It's only because I'm getting ready to wrap up. I want you to understand, as more people get sick, that leads to hospitals and cities that are already under strain. And we can see that in France, strikes have even impacted hospitals. So in the US, shutdowns could delay health programs. And we certainly don't want that to occur for people whose life really depends on it. What we want to do is not create a feedback loop where there are overwhelmed healthcare systems, longer wait times, more stress, more illness. That's the loop. What you need to do is focus on how to break that loop for yourself using not just the best innovative, non-toxic, healthy approaches to wellness, but I'm a big advocate of complementary and alternative medicine. So what I want you to do is focus on reframing that awareness is your power, that the connection between stress and health is real, and that's why caring for yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. I want you to understand that small anchors matter. So small anchors will be fresh food, hydration, movement, quality sleep, and strengthening community. We need to focus on deep breath and emotional processing. That will help to fortify our immune system. And collective resilience. What the government shakes, we strengthen in community. When we care for each other, we are sharing resources, and grounding together is a type of medicine, which leads back to that first image of the shamans that are working to heal the frequency of earth as well as the collective. So political collapse is something that is not new to humanity, but what we can do is choose to have a new response. And if you can start to take some of these ideas and apply it to your practical life, then that is already a step ahead of what average people did in the past. Because here's the truth. While we can't always control our governments, financial institutions, corporations, and technology, we can focus on reclaiming our inner stability. And the real front line that I think we need to focus on is our health and wellness, as well as our energetic connection to something larger than us. Communities matter more than ever, and I am going to give you in the description box below a free link to how to prepare for a 72-hour blackout. It talks about not just the supplies that you need, but how to actually be energetically prepared if the lights go out for a few days. I don't think it will be longer than that. So with that, may you understand that you are divinely guided, you are protected, and you are always capable of bringing deeper levels of healing into your life. That healing is part of what's creating wisdom, and that wisdom is a type of medicine that spreads to the collective. It's vital that you are part of it.